Hello, fourth graders. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. This is the second week of summer school, and we are going to continue with looking at different properties of math and how they can make it easier for us to multiply and divide. Okay? Now, just to review a couple of things, there's a few things that I asked you to do on Wednesday and Thursday. The first thing would be to check out the video. It's up by 8:30. And if you're watching this, you're already on the right track. Okay, so the video is kind of like my lesson. So I expect you to be able to watch this first before you try to do some problems. That brings me to the problems. You're going to have in the same link that you find this, there will be a description of what you're going to do in Success Maker 2. It's going to be a little bit different than last week, but you'll be working on some of the same skills. And then, after you've had a chance to do those problems, do that work, we have our Zoom meeting at 10:30. Okay? And I expect that you can make it to that Zoom meeting. Sometimes talking about the math problems that we do is almost as important as doing the problems in the first place, because sometimes you get new ideas and increases your understanding. Maybe you can help out one of your classmates because maybe you understand something that they don't. Okay, so trying to show up at our Zoom meeting at 10:30. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be looking at properties, and we already did more than half of these properties, and then we're going to continue with that today. Okay, so let's start off with a little review of some things that we've already done. The commutative property. Do you remember what the commutative property was? The commutative property basically says that you can take the factors when you multiply. The factors are the numbers that you multiply together. And I can take my factors and I can change the orders when there's two numbers, and I will get the same answer. So for example, 5 times 3 equals 3 times 5. It doesn't matter which of the two factors come first, you're going to get the same answer. You'll usually see this, especially on test questions. They'll show you something like that, and they'll say, which property does this represent? And of course, it's the commutative property. Okay, and we worked on that, I believe, last Wednesday. Okay, another one that we worked on last Wednesday was the associative property. Do you remember what the associative property is? Well, the associative property is a lot like the commutative property, except you're working with three numbers that you're multiplying together instead of just two. So, for example, if I was multiplying 2 times 3 times 4, the way that you're going to multiply is you're going to have to pick two of the numbers to go first, so you put parentheses around them. So I can multiply the 2 times 3 and multiply the 4. Now, it doesn't matter, though, which two I do first. I'm going to get the same answer. If I multiply 2 times 3 times 4, only this time I decide to multiply the 3 times 4 first and then multiply the 2, it doesn't matter. Either way, the answer that you get is 24. Okay? So the associative property basically is the same thing as the commutative property, except you have three numbers that you're multiplying instead of two. You can change the order. It doesn't matter. You always get the same product, the same answer. Okay? Thursday, we talked about the distributive property. Now, distributive property is a way of breaking apart problems to make easier problems. Okay, so let's say that you had a problem like 17 times 4. And you're like, oh no, I don't know how to multiply 17 times 4, except you probably do. You probably do if you break it apart. 17 times 4 I can break apart into 10 times 4 plus 7 times 4. Now let me explain how I did that. I looked at the big number. The big number in this case was 17. And I thought this would be a great number to break into pieces because it's already so big, it would be nice to have it into smaller pieces. So I broke up 17 into 10 plus 7. Now if I just multiply each part by 4, I have an easy problem. 10 times 4 is 40. 7 times 4 is 28. 40 plus 28 is 68. 68 would be my answer. Okay, so the distributive property is used for breaking apart big multiplication problems into smaller pieces. You do those smaller pieces, you add it back together again, you get your total answer. Okay? All right, now the next two properties we're going to talk about are new for today, but they're not really new for you ever. And these are the easiest two properties to consider. The first property is called the identity property. And the name comes from the idea that if you multiply by 1, you keep your identity. So, in other words, whatever number you multiply by 1, you get that same number as your answer. So, for example, 7 times 1 equals 7. Okay? Nothing too tricky there. Any number, and it wouldn't matter if it was 1 times 7 or 7 times 1, still works, right? And it's any number. I can multiply 119 times 1, and I'm going to get 119. Whatever number I multiply by 1, I get that same number. The number keeps its identity when you multiply by 1. Okay? So the identity is just whenever you multiply by 1, you get that same number as your answer. The last one we got to talk about real quick is 0. And this is the easiest property there is because you always have the same answer. Right? When you multiply any number times 0, you get that 0 as your answer. So 0 times 9 equals 0. Or any number times 0 has an answer of 0. Multiply 0 times 1, you get 0. Okay? So any number times 0 is 0. So that's the identity. Identity is when you multiply by 1, you get the same answer. Any number times 1, you get the same answer. 0 property is you multiply by 0, you get 0. And that's it. All right? Really simplest property that there is. Okay, so commutative, associative, distributive, identity, and 0. Those are all the properties. There's no more to go for multiplication. Okay, so if you understand those, you get it. And the thing is, it's an understanding. If you understand the properties, what you really have is a better understanding of math. And once you get the hang of those, it makes multiplying and dividing and other things a way more simpler when you have that kind of basic understanding that these properties all represent. Okay? So, you're going to have something to do in Success Maker. And then after you do that, you're going to have a Zoom meeting with me at 10:30. And I hope to see you there because, like I said, it's valuable to have that time to go over our work and for me to give you some other questions to do and things like that. Okay? So I hope that I'll see you there. And I hope that you have a fantastic day.